Welcome, welcome. I'm on about a minute or two early, so just going to pause the recording. Welcome, welcome. We're going to give people an opportunity to join us. Good afternoon. It's afternoon for most people who are joining.
Hello.
Hello, welcome. Happy Wednesday.
You too.
Hi, Livia. Hi, Luann. Welcome. Come on in.
Nice to see you all.
Yes. Happy Wednesday. I was just double checking the date. Think of what day is it? With
Yesterday,
Monday being the holiday, it throws me off.
Yesterday, I ended up texting my bookkeeper. She comes in on Wednesdays. I was like, hey, are we not seeing you today? She's like, I come on Wednesdays. But in my brain, it was already Wednesday. So I have no idea what day it is.
Yes, I know. The days go by very, very quickly.
My goodness.
Hi, Lindy. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome. Everybody's got their workbook. You're on mute, Livia.
Sorry, I missed yesterday, but I did do the recording. So
excellent. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, I know it's lots of stuff comes up, so it's not always possible to be live. So I appreciate those who are live, and I know there are people catching the replays. So I'm going to give a shout out to Helen and to Sean, who I heard from today, who are both been catching the replays. So thank you for watching. All right, so let's get started. You've got your workbook. We've been through a couple sessions already. So this is Financial Foundation to Entrepreneurial Peace Training. Just as a reminder, my name is Tracy Bissett. I am a financial coach for young adults and entrepreneurs, and it's really my privilege to help take the mystery out of money for people. So that really excites me. We kicked off the week thinking about what would entrepreneurial peace look and feel like for us. How would things be if we were in control of the financial side of our business? So Monday we did Cash Flow 101 and why it was important to know your numbers. We also looked at Cash Flow Forecasting 101. Yesterday, we did a deep dive on pricing. And so not just the math part, but also on the emotional part and what's coming up for us as we think about pricing, and we're getting into that. So would love to hear from anybody who'd love to share if you had any reflections. And just as a reminder, kind of your key takeaway was when thinking about my pricing, what do I know I need to dig into for possible changes or already know I need to change? And then your action item was thinking again about my prices. Have I validated them in the market? Is there room to increase them? And am I charging for my time? So if anybody had any insights that they gleaned, I would love to share. Go ahead, Stephanie McCullough.
So for my kind of one-time consulting for financial planning prices, I have increased them numerous times. And I finally just had the guts to actually speak to a human being the price that's on my website, because it went on my website and I'm still charging people the old price. But what I realized I hadn't done is really analyze, like, I've looked at how many hours it takes me, but it takes hours of my staff too, which I hadn't really worked into the equation. And I'm not sure I'm valuing my time as much as I should. And I'm probably underestimating the time it takes. So I've got a little sheet
You're starting to go through the
numbers with trying to think like the different, sizes of engagement. How many hours does it really take? And excellent. I also believe that it shouldn't only be priced based on my time. It should be the value that they're receiving, but it should at least cover my time, right? Which I'm not sure it is.
Yeah, and kind of along those lines. So I might like to think that I can charge $5 million for an hour of my time, but probably no one's going to pay that, right? So I still got to do the validation out in the market, because you don't want to price yourself out of no clients. But you need to be cognizant of who am I targeting and what is the range that they're willing to pay, and make sure you're getting paid for what you need. And then if it's too high, if you want to charge more, make sure the value is there. So Stephanie summed it up perfectly. So well done. Love that. Love hearing people put it into action. Anybody else want to share? Livia, go ahead.
Yes, I think we're all guilty of that. We do not value ourselves and we do not put it down. But here's my experience, and I don't know what's going on in Canada, but here just before, while I was starting the business, I was going through a program offered by one of the community colleges in the area. And the program is called Self-Employment Training. And they are, of course, focusing more on the financials and what we need to understand and do. And a projection sheet was offered. And, in the expenses, we were really specifically told, do not include any of your time. You cannot do that in the first 3 years. Cannot pay yourself. And it's like, do you see what
in a perfect world, sure, but everybody's got to cover their personal bills and live and
us ladies, I mean, we are the most creators of small business enterprises, and so just to be noted.
Thank you. And for those in Canada, it is we are celebrating Small Business this month, so happy Small Business Month. And I do know from research from the Business Development Bank of Canada, the 3 groups who are starting businesses in Canada at the highest frequency. So it's newcomers to Canada, young people, and women over 50. So that is the market that is starting most businesses, and that gives credence to what Livia was saying about women starting so many businesses. And they're usually out of necessity and to fill a need that they haven't been able to find somewhere else. So that's perfect. Anybody else? And I'm not going to put anybody on the spot because I know this is a personal thing, but I imagine now, since I've talked to you about what were you doing when you were 5 to 7 years of age, you were probably thinking back to your childhood, back to your family situation. And if it wasn't what you were loving, are you perpetuating that? Are you continuing that? Are you passing it on? Or are you making some changes? So all of that is within reach, which is fantastic. So we're going to keep the theme going with money conversations. So we're jumping to page 9 in our workbook today, and we're going to talk about stakeholder conversations. And this is a really fun one for me because I get to always be hearing what's going on. Clients will tell me what they say, or they may not tell me. They'll say, I had a conversation with this person. I'll say, okay, well, what did you say? And then I kind of get into the bones of it and figure out what were they saying. And oftentimes when we have any kind of money conversation related to our business, stuff comes up around our insecurities around money. And so we sometimes tell things that we shouldn't. We talk about things that we shouldn't. We might bring up all of our insecurities and put them out there for maybe our clients. And so we want to be really focused when we're having those conversations. And so right at the top of the page there, we have a list of 6 key stakeholders. This list is by no means exhaustive, but certainly is going to be the key ones that you're thinking about. And so the first one being clients. So how are we conducting our communications with them? Okay. Number 2 is suppliers, and that could be any supplier that we have in our business. 3 are employees, because sometimes they have a lens into our financial situation. Most times they don't. But money stuff comes up because they've got all their own stuff going on personally and what they think they should be paid and all of those kinds of things. So clients, suppliers, employees. Number 4 is your bookkeeper. Number 5 being your accountant, and 6 being your banker. So some of you have all of those to contend with. Some of you only have a few of those. So clients, suppliers, employees, bookkeeper, accountant, and your banker. And so the number 1 mistake made when talking with stakeholders is entrepreneurs focusing the conversation on their insecurities and doubts about money and their financial acumen. So perfect example, I'll talk to someone who's having really tight cash flow and they've gone to call one of their unpaid invoices, and they'll call and they'll say, hey, Livia, can you do me a favor? I don't know how I'm going to make payroll this week. Could you just pay your invoice? Not quite really the message you want to project, right? So we're focusing on what's our problem and what we're going to need to do to fill it. But that's not actually where the conversation should be focused, because we should be focusing on, hey, Livia, I'm so glad you liked the work that I did for you. I know you've got the invoice. Did you need me to resend it? How can we work towards me getting paid for that work that you were so happy with? You see how the dynamic is completely different? We may still feel insecure, and we probably are super stressed out about, are we going to make payroll? But we don't need to tell that to our client. We need to focus on, we made an agreement. We agreed I was going to do X. You were going to pay me after I did it. You've already told me you were happy about it. Great, let's facilitate the payment. And sometimes emails get lost. Could I resend that invoice to you? And so sometimes we're making up drama before we even call them, because there's this big nefarious reason why they haven't paid us. Meanwhile, they saw it the second it popped in the inbox, and then it left their mind and they never saw it again. And they forgot to go look for it. So being very intentional when we're having those conversations is really important. So the next part there in your workbook is focus the conversation on the right thing and stop making it about you. So focus the conversation on the right thing, whatever that issue is, and stop making it about you. And we want to try to be unemotional as best we can. If we know that we get nervous in any of these kinds of situations, we might write ourselves a little script before we get on the call. Even if we're on Zoom, we can put a little paper here stuck to the side of your computer and have it there as kind of a cheat sheet to help us stay focused. But we want to stay focused on the issue at hand. And so one of the things I hear often from entrepreneurs as well, especially when they're starting to do well and the employees can sense that, sometimes they want more money. So if they're on salary, they want a raise. If they're getting paid by the hour, they want a raise to what they're getting paid. And so it's important to know how you might handle those things. So in a small business, you may not have formal performance appraisals. You may not have a dedicated time where you do those reviews. You may not have a mechanism to review pricing out in the market. But certainly as you get a little bit more established, those are things you want to point to. And so I can think of a client I was working with. She was in the space helping real estate agents market their skills and solicit new clients. And so a lot of digital work, a lot of print work to support them with their collateral. And so as she was getting busier and busier, one employee actually kind of arranged a mutiny amongst the rest of them to all come after her for raises. And so initially, one person had come and she had acquiesced because she didn't know her numbers and she wasn't really looking at what was going on in the market. And she was thinking about, oh my gosh, if I lose that person, what am I going to do? Okay. So she gave the raise. Not even 1 month later, they came back. And now they've arranged for all the others to come along and demand this raise. So because of the mishandling at the beginning, they thought they could just walk all over her. She's doing well. They thought they could make all kinds of demands. And so she had to sit down with each one individually and start talking about, okay, we're going to have these formal performance appraisals. This is when we have them. This is at which time we're going to review compensation. If you feel like you're being underpaid, I'm sorry, I'm not in a position right now to address that. So you'll have to make a decision about what it is you're going to do. And knowing that if somebody left, it was going to be painful in the near term, but again, keeping it issue focused. And if you already have those parameters set up in your business, all the better, but you can certainly create them. But it's you staying in control. Tell me why you feel like you're not being paid sufficient for the work that you do. So one of them offered up, oh, well, so-and-so told me, and they kind of encouraged us all to come and talk to you. Okay, that's not really so good. Even though the person who was kind of the ringleader to this attack to her was great at what they did, best course for the company was to have them leave on their own terms and move ahead without them because they were just inciting too much confrontation. And so you may have some key employees where you feel like sharing some financial information with them, and that's okay. I do always caution business owners because you actually never know how somebody's going to react about financial things until they're in that situation. And I mentioned earlier in the week, I was a banker for 16 years. Certainly, I've seen a lot of people backed into a corner when things are not going well, and the way they will behave is unlike anything you could have possibly imagined for them. They're the kindest, nicest, friendliest person you've ever met, but now that they're out of options, a different person is going to come out. Same thing can happen with employees. So you may feel that it's right to share and disclose a lot of financial information with them, but you don't know if they're all of a sudden going to become jealous and greedy and want to have more of what you've worked really hard for. They may not have seen those 10 years where you didn't make as much as you were intending personally because you were putting money back and reinvesting it into the business. So they don't have the same necessarily perspective or lens that they're looking at the company through. So maybe you just share some sales information. Maybe you have a profit sharing plan in place or an incentive plan for bonuses, and they get to see a piece of the information, but they're not seeing everything. So as much transparency as you want to provide, I think is great, but you want to always err on the side of testing things out, especially if you've got a key employee and you do want to bring them closer into the fold and see what's happening. You might space that information out and how they're seeing it, just so you can gauge their reaction and make sure they're handling it well. And then the other thing is, if things are not going well, you don't want people alarmed. Okay, because you probably have plans in place to deal with cash flow shortages or to drum up new clients, and you don't want everybody concerned every single day that their job may be in jeopardy. Okay, so that's an important one too. So keeping it focused on what's the actual issue at hand. So one of the things I hear all the time is, I don't know what to ask my bookkeeper or accountant. And so they do this work for me, and then they send me something, and I don't really know how to read it, or I kind of know how to read it, but then we don't talk about it. So I've listed some questions here on the bottom of page 9 that can really help you start that conversation. Because what you're going to find is, as you ask more questions, as your knowledge builds and you have that more solid foundation, you already have a foundation because you're running your business. So it's having confidence in that already. But now you can start to use some of these. So if I got my financial statements, I might say to the bookkeeper or accountant, what do you notice when looking at these numbers? It's an educated question. You're now relying on their expertise to tell you what do they see. They're going to probably share some insights that then you can follow up with. They might say, you know what, Tracy, when I look at these numbers, it seems like the sales are really low compared to the past months I've been doing the bookkeeping. And I might know the reason. Yeah, that's exactly right. I deferred a training program into the next month. And so those sales are actually going to show up next month. And so now we're having a conversation about the business, and it's really a two-way thing. Especially with accountants, you might say, how do these numbers look compared to other companies of similar size in the same industry? So this could be accountant. This can also be banker as well. So when I work with my clients and the one-on-one coaching, certainly I do a review of their financial performance, and I compare their numbers to industry benchmarks. Because if you can imagine, this is the kind of like a financial detective. There are rating agencies out there that gather up all kinds of financial information to aggregate it. And then by every industry code, they can print off what is kind of the standard profit margin, what is the standard spent on advertising, what are the key ratios. And so I can put in context what I'm seeing as an independent third party. So your banker has the ability to gather that information if you're dealing with a commercial center. Even in Canada, if you're dealing with Business Development Bank of Canada on any kind of level, they're able to get access to that stuff. So they may also have a portfolio of clients in the same space. Sometimes people, organizations break up their clients that way, so that all restaurants may deal in with the same account manager if they're in a certain region. Okay. So what do they see compared to other companies they know of similar size or in the same industry? Third one, if you were the owner of the business, are there areas or things you'd be focused on maintaining or changing? Again, you can ask that question without having very much knowledge about your financial results. And so they could say, well, you know, you're doing a really good job at increasing your sales, but your profit seems to be not in line with that. Tell me more. Now we've got something else we can follow up with. Still, we don't need to have lots of financial knowledge, but we're getting them to share what they know to help us. Okay. So if you ever feel stuck, pull one of these questions out just to get the conversation going. And you might say, explain it to me a different way. Tell me why you're seeing that. Show me what says that to you. Show me the numbers, point them out to me that tells you what you just said to me. And now you're continually increasing your knowledge, and you're able to bring up not only financial knowledge, but the vocabulary. So we talked about this as like learning a new language. If they're using different words than you think of the same thing, now you're going to be able to pick up the lingo to then have that conversation the next time from a more versed place in the language of finance. Okay. Anybody have that experience where you've got information from your bookkeeper, or they're trying to tell you something and you don't know what's happening? Yeah, I'm seeing a couple head nods. Lindy's saying no.
Totally.
Yeah.
I just
today.
emailed mine those questions.
You what?
I just emailed mine those questions.
Oh, great. Yeah. Why not? I mean, they have an expertise that you do not, which is why you hired them, right? Let's leverage people's expertise and learn from them. We don't need to do it all alone. So bankers, bookkeepers, accountants, they see people in the same industry. I've worked across all industries over the course of my career. I know what standard ratios are. So would I know off the top of my head details per industry? No, but the ones I've dealt with more recently, they're going to be top of mind. And I actually have a book with all the ratios in them, so I can just look up in my book. But the themes are the same, and those are aspirational targets that we're trying to move to. So that should give you some confidence that even when you're stuck and you don't know what to say, what do you notice? If you were me, what would you be focused on? What would you suggest I stop doing? Or what would I continue doing? Because you've noticed this change and this trending that's really positive. And so it's about being calm, staying unemotional, issue focused if we're having a delicate conversation. So whether it's about, can we get that invoice paid? No, you're not having a raise today. I will review that in 3 months' time when we do your performance appraisal. Making sure you follow through with those things though. So if you commit to an employee that you're going to look at it, you need to look at it. And if the decision's not in their favor at that time, you still need to have that conversation. But if you're upfront and honest about when it's going to take place and actually set a time to have that, they're going to know that they're listened to, and they may not like the answer, but they're being heard, and you're addressing what they're looking for. Okay. So if we go on to page 10, flip that over. So as a key takeaway, am I avoiding any conversations with the key stakeholders mentioned above? So that was your clients, your suppliers, your employees, bookkeeper, accountant, and banker. And if you have a bookkeeper, you're probably avoiding something with them. I'd bet money on that for most of you, because something's not quite right and you haven't taken the time to explain it to them or ask them the question. So are you avoiding any conversations? How can I reframe the discussion to focus on the issue and approach it from a place of confidence? And so for some of you, it might be role playing before you actually get on that call, whether it's Zoom or on the phone. For some of you, might be writing a little script just to keep you focused on, when I feel stuck and I'm not sure what to say, here's what I'm going to go with. What would need to happen so that you can do that? Okay. And these are all key people you need to have productive, positive relationships with. So it's really important that you're able to advance things if there's issues and resolve them, not just for the sake of resolving them, but resolve them in a way that you feel comfortable, confident, and you're able to actually then make progress and move things along in the business. Nothing holds things up like bottleneck problems that can't get solved, because usually one thing, especially on the accounting, can hold up another piece. If we've got collection issues and we're afraid to call our customer or ask them about it, we're going to have cash flow problems. So it can lead to much bigger things. So in terms of the action item, make a list of the conversations I have been putting off or want to regroup on, and only contact one of those stakeholders on the list to set a time to talk. So you don't need to talk to them. You're just going to make a list of who are all these people I've been avoiding. And there's probably at least one, maybe more than one. And then pick the easiest one and actually contact them to set a time to talk. So I just worked through this with a client. We talked last Thursday. She was meeting with her bookkeeper this week, and we gave her some prompts, gave her some questions, but also to kind of bridge the gap. What they were having was kind of a communication challenge like this, talking to each other, and we're wanting to work well together, but they weren't speaking the same language. So I suggested maybe you're going to screen share the systems that you get information from and figure out how are you going to get that to them, but show them what you can see because they might know. Perfect, Stephanie. I'm just seeing that here now. Talked to my banker yesterday and submitted my line of credit application. Excellent. Okay, it didn't take too long, right? Why don't you tell us about the experience?
I've been sitting on it for about a month. So this was the prompt to finally get it done.
That's good, because I would say most people would have sat on that longer than a month, in my experience. So very good. And were they, had you initiated it before, like they'd sent you information that you needed to fill out?
Yep. But I was kind of stuck on a couple of things, like how much to ask for and basically how much to ask for, because I didn't have a handle on my run rate and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, I'll just ask the banker, what she thinks is reasonable. So we discussed and came up with a number that she's going to ask for. They're doing like the quick application process or quick credit. So hopefully less underwriting. So we'll see what happens.
And did she mention if it's going to be based on your personal credit score, or is it going to be based on? Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Because there was
That's
much
good.
more information about me as opposed to the business.
Yeah. And so you knew what to expect when you initiated that. So that's great.
Yeah.
And you probably had your information handy and it went pretty smooth. And no matter what the answer is, you're going to deal with it. Because sometimes what can happen, because I was an adjudicator for 8 years, sometimes what comes back can be yes, but I need more information to confirm the things I think. Not sure, so I need more information, or sorry, no, not until such time that blah, blah, blah. So then
Or could they come back and say, not this much, but this much?
Yeah, possible.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of variations. And if it's sometimes, and this is important for you to know, oftentimes the people you are dealing with are not as knowledgeable as the people who are approving them. So sometimes they've asked you all the questions that they know of and that they think of. But when it goes in, then someone might have maybe a higher level type question that they didn't think to ask. And so I would be relaying my questions back through account managers and trying to get to the answer and all those kinds of things when I was the one sitting there having to press approve or decline or approve with these conditions. And so sometimes it's the way they present the information. And so just being knowledgeable about that the person who you're actually talking to may not have all the information or the experience too. So sharing as much as you can, because then that allows them to convey it further. Okay. And that's important as well. And I appreciate you sharing that. The banker's not your best friend. I want to make sure I throw that out there, because sometimes with women in particular, I find that sometimes we're just going to tell them about all our troubles. We might have a little cry. We're going to tell them what's happening. We want to be honest and transparent with our banker, and we want to build a professional relationship, but we're not telling them everything that's going wrong in our life. Okay. So it's professional, transparent. We share the right things, but we're not crying on their shoulder. It's okay to talk about a business challenge that we're having, but we want to still maintain our professionalism and maintain our credibility with them. And they're not expecting anybody to be perfect and have all the answers, but they're expecting problem solvers and people who are looking for the best way to run their business. So that's good to know. Oh, it's exciting. I love that. So one day, now we'll see did they say how long it will take to be approved? No.
She said it varies. I might hear back from underwriting, in a couple of days or a week. And then if it's kind of one of those, they have different queues that we'll get in. So depending on your credit score, if your credit score is super high and the amount is well within reason, it'll be probably an auto go through. But yeah, that's great. So by next week, you could be signing the papers and have that in place. That'll feel good.
Yeah. The other thing too is to make sure everybody gets to know people in your local small business groups. So whether it's like a city group, whether it's small business association, some places have, but you may be able to qualify for some grants. You may be able to qualify for special loans where there's 0% interest. One I know of that I'm involved in as they call them activators, but it's an investor. This is particularly for women owned and led businesses, is SheEO. So they've got that in Canada. They got that in the States. They're always looking for great ideas. Go ahead, Lindy.
Would you take out a loan to hire an administrative assistant so that you could free up more of your time to help more clients?
If you could, I would then do my financial forecast to make sure I could repay the loan, that I was going to make enough profit to be able to repay the loan. So if you feel like you've got this pipeline out there, because you, like you told us the other day, you got so many new clients in September. If you feel like that's going to continue and you're going to be able to be profitable, because don't forget, loan interest comes off before profit. But certainly your loan repayment is going to be outside of that income statement. So you got to make enough money so you can do that.
Sounds scary to me to take on a loan, but I just was
Barb.
asking. I don't know if I'm limiting myself either. So thank you.
Well, I think it's a function of a couple things. So number one, is this kind of a new phenomenon that all these people are coming to want to be your clients? If it's been that people have been asking you just don't have the capacity, could you book them on wait lists? Could you book agreements with them to start on X date so that you'd have some certainty going into that? And maybe you could, at the beginning, bring someone on a part-time basis so that you start small. Maybe they're a contractor, not or an employee on a part-time basis, and then either take out a smaller loan or get the larger loan, but only have to use some of it up front so that you could build your confidence.
I'm a control freak too, and I worry about the security of our business. So I'm nervous about bringing somebody in, but so there's that.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't serve more people unless you grow a little bit. So it's all in how you want to design your business and how many people you want to help. So, all right, excellent. So Barbara's just joined us. We've been having stakeholder conversations and how we're going to talk about money things with them. So we were looking on page 9 and we were looking on page 10 there. Stephanie McCullough just gave us a great story. So since yesterday, she's already applied for a line of credit and her application is in. So big win, which is fantastic. And so putting off those conversations doesn't do us any good. It just kind of makes us heavy. We got more sitting on our shoulders when that happens. So SheEO is a great opportunity for that's in multiple countries. They usually take applications one time a year. So in Canada right now, the applications are open. It's a very short application. I think the same is in the US as well. So those are interest-free loans. So the money does get repaid, but you don't pay any interest on it. But the beauty of even applying to an organization like that is that you're getting the support of all the people who invest their money. SheEO. And so they are started in Canada. Vicki Saunders is the founder. So started in Canada, went to the US. It's in Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. And there's countries all over the world looking for startups in their region. And so the money comes from women investors. They're called activators. So your money goes into a pool. And then as an investor, I actually get to vote and pick which companies I think should get the money. So then obviously if the ones that get the most votes, if those were ones I was keen on, I'm probably going to do other things in my power to help them. I might give them a financial coaching session. I might buy their product or their services. And so it's a really neat organization the way it works. So that would, I think that covers everybody who's on here today that I can see. And then Canada and the US are taking applications right now. It's a very short application process. So it needs to be women majority owned and women led. Okay. And they do have a minimum sales. So that might be a thing to watch for, but you'll see the criteria. Okay. Any other? Go ahead.
I have, Tracy, I've been thinking about, like we all have websites, so we all have website developer people, maybe not employees, but they're certainly suppliers. And I suppose I'm just kind of looking for a little guidance on managing these website development projects. You know,
like
from
in
start
terms
to
of a
finish.
cost standpoint or
Yeah.
scope? Okay. Yeah, depending on how much functionality you need, the cost can really vary. Like I just updated my site at the beginning of this year to make a shopping cart come on it and to speak to my CRM and speak to my classroom. And that was an expensive bill, and thank you, Lindy, and to try to get everything kind of working cohesively. And so have the scope mapped out in the beginning if you can, and get them to actually quantify each piece. My developer was great because they put a price on each thing we wanted to do. And so I could pick and choose, are we doing that now? Does one have to be done before another? Like kind of in terms of order of events that need to take place. So I could do as much as I wanted at that point and then know what could add on later. If it's somebody who's just doing regular updates for you, you should be able to get them on an hourly rate. And a good VA can do all that stuff. So so you need to think about how much is really development or just maintenance and updating.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then, yeah, I mean,
So I
it's
haven't
such a
answered it now
cost, right?
because it's very, yeah. And then
exactly.
I would really challenge you though, and I encourage anybody who's starting a business, because lots of times people reach out to me when they're just going to get going and they haven't even done a business plan yet, but they kind of have an idea. Don't spend too much on the website, because things are going to change and change and change till you actually land on what you're doing. And so you could spend a lot of money repeatedly to redo the website. And I see Livia shaking her head there. Yeah. So if you can get by with just a landing page, and a lot of times too, if you're doing training or something like that, like you can just do a one-page landing page, depending on how they're going to pay, what you're offering. Like if you get the physical goods, it's a little bit different, a little bit more complex than just a service-based thing. So
yeah,
have a
I thought
conversation with
actually
them.
I thought of you yesterday. I was walking a book. I was like sending a book to a colleague, basically
Mailing
one
it
of our
or,
books, mailing it, and I
electronic?
thought, okay, my time is worth X, and the time to walk and mail the book is this. But if I even had an employee at $15 an hour, that's still a pretty expensive postage bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all adds up, doesn't it?
Yeah, books unfortunately usually aren't like the thing that's going to make us the millionaires.
No.
But they are the way to get there, because
Yeah,
they
absolutely. Yeah.
really
Well,
magnify credibility and presence and influence and all of that stuff.
yeah. She's a really great advocate. She'll probably be selling our courses for us. So
Awesome.
for her, it was worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another thing you might want to anybody can consider. Do you have referral arrangements, affiliate arrangements that you can set up? Doesn't need to be complicated. So as long as you can identify who referred in, most people would be good with more sales and paying out a portion of those to someone who made the referral. So if you get people who understand your business, understand you, certainly being able to set that up is a great way, because more sales, what's the harm to pay some of that out if you're going to generate more sales, right? Excellent. So I think the wheels are turning for everybody, which is great. And so, as I said, we started the week with what would things look and feel like. You've already had some actionable takeaways. Tomorrow, we're going to round out all of the keys together and put them into practice. And we're going to talk about routines that you're going to want to put in place. And on tomorrow, in case you didn't notice in the emails, because of my doggy, I had to move our session to 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, because she has an appointment with a specialist in the afternoon. So that's earlier. So if anybody needs to catch the replay, you can certainly do that. And Friday, we're going to do some bonus stuff. So we're going to talk through some Q&A. I'm going to go through deeper on money mindset, because I know when I mentioned it yesterday with the pricing and what was coming up when you were younger. And so we're going to talk about scarcity and abundance and how we can actually transform from one to another. And it's not like snapping our fingers. There's some actions though we can take to help us move along that spectrum. And so Friday we'll do that. And so glad that you've been joining me live. I really appreciate it. It's so much fun for me to be able to hear about everybody's business. And I know that with this free training that some of you have already got the lift that you need, and you've got the steps and the action to move ahead. And it's really helping you. You've been able to take action so far with what you've seen these first 3 days. But certainly some of you may want to have some more support. And so starting on November 2nd, we will be running the next round of our Cash Control Bootcamp, which is a 6-week live online group program where we come together and you get tools and resources and training from me live to help you go through things in a little bit more detail. So to actually create that cash flow forecast from an Excel spreadsheet, to have a pricing matrix to help you figure out how much am I making on every single thing that's happening. We look at profit leaks. We do a deeper dive on these stakeholder conversations. And so that is kicking off on November 2nd, 6-week live online program. And it's more to give you the tangible and actually the time to work through the numbers and to talk to me about your numbers. Because right now we're talking about things and many of you are getting clarity, you're taking those actions. But I know when you actually sit down and start to make the numbers, more questions come up. And so having access to that. Also included is 2 1-hour office hour sessions that we'll have thrown within that 6-week period. So I'm going to drop the link in the chat there for that so you can check it out. Certainly would love to have all of you join us if you think it's a right fit for you. There's the link so you can check out all the details. The other thing too is I'd love to be able to support you with your implementation. So whether your implementation of what you've been learning this week involves going on your path, keeping up with what you're doing, taking what you've learned, I'd love to help support you get a plan in action to do that, or to talk about if the Cash Control Bootcamp is a good fit for you. And so please do book a call. Would love to speak with everybody because I do want to make sure that you can take what you've learned this week and action it, whether that's on your own or certainly taking it further with me. Because my goal is to increase financial fitness and financial acumen worldwide, and it starts with one person at a time and one business owner at a time. So that's my wish for you. So please do take advantage of booking that call. Okay. What questions do you have, whether about anything we covered Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, anything about ideas you've now got in mind, anything I can help you with right now while we're still here as a group?
I just wanted to say thank you because I actually looked more closely at my bookkeeping. I had a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet of what my business cost every month, but the Excel is more accurate, I believe, or the QuickBooks is more accurate. And then I looked at what my subscription income is. And so with what it is now, from the clients that I have gained over the last month, I'd say that what I'm earning now is enough to cover my expenses. At least it has been the last 5 out of 6 months. But I did a quick thing and I'm on track to make like $20,000 next year. Gross, I think, at this rate. So I do need to think about increasing my pricing. And just paying bills isn't going to be enough. So thank you for.
You're welcome. And your question about should you take a loan to bring someone on? If you've got that many people wanting to work with you, there's probably some people out there who want to pay more. So if you don't want to grow because you feel uncomfortable bringing on a larger team, you can still make more money, still dealing with the same number of people, just different people.
Yeah, that's probably what I need to do at this point, is just increase my profit margin and not spread myself more thinly.
And that's easy to do. Not easy in that you just throw out your prices. Like Stephanie talked about earlier in the call, she finally said the prices out loud that are on her website. And actually articulated those. But as you bring on someone new, Lindy, they get the new price. You don't need to wait till January 1st when a new year comes along. You're not pulling the wool out from the people, or the rug out from under the people you already deal with. But when somebody new comes along, here's the rate. There just needs to be this milestone date to do that.
I just need to update my ADV, and it's been on my mind for a long time, much like Stephanie's paperwork sitting there. So I will be accountable and work on that.
Excellent. That's great. Love to hear that. The other thing too, I talked to you about what I was doing when I was a kid and I was out there making money, but I'm a huge proponent of everyone making as much money as they can. And not because I think people need to sit around and amass all this wealth, unless that's what you want to do. But when you do that, you can choose how much you're going to work. You can choose who you're going to serve. You can decide to give away some of your products or services pro bono. You can choose to create employment for others. You can donate money to charity. You can do all kinds of things, but you can't do any of that if you don't make money. So make profit, pay yourself. Absolutely. So the world will be better when more women are financially stable and in control. Absolutely. I don't think Barb would have even said that better. So be conscious of your numbers, make money, and then do with it what you want. Maybe that's vacations with family. Maybe it's taking one half day off a week because you're going to do something that you enjoy for your hobby. But whatever it is, make sure that you're making money, because nobody starts their own business to not be profitable. And unfortunately, that's really the situation. So I'm going to let you ladies go. I'm going to see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. We're going to wrap up all the keys together. Please do think about your homework. So make a list of those conversations you've been putting off or want to regroup on, and contact one of those stakeholders on the list to set a time to talk. So you're not actually having the conversation with them, but one of those people that you have something you got to deal with. Maybe it's a collection issue, maybe it's an employer, maybe it's a supplier issue. Book the time to get that call done. If you need a little script, write yourself a script. If you need to role play and practice before then, but get it on the books and get moving. Okay. Yes, Stephanie.
How is your dog doing?
She's doing better. So Stephanie knows, because we did a podcast a couple of weeks ago. She somehow got into kidney failure, which is very serious. So I had she'd been in emergency for 4 days. And then when I went and did a follow-up, they told me I should prepare to put her down, which was heartbreaking. And then we went last week for a follow-up and everything was okay. So
What?
Yeah, so it's quite a dramatic little saga. So we're going again tomorrow and hopefully everything will be a-okay. So
Woo, that's good news.
I know, but it's very unusual and very strange. And she's had a tough little life. She's only 5 and she had a cruciate ligament rupture in her leg. So leg surgery in the summer and she healed perfectly. And I thought that was all behind us. So this kidney thing's just out of nowhere. So anybody with animals, make sure they were drilling me very thoroughly about toxins. So make sure you're aware of anything they can get into, because they said a toxin easily could have caused this kind of situation. So thank you, Barb. Yeah, so she's okay. She's here sleeping, watching me. So all good. So
Well, that's great news. That's good news, because
yes.
Yeah, she's a therapy dog too, you were saying too,
Yeah,
right?
we do. We do usually do that on Friday afternoons, so during non-COVID times. So yeah, she is a super dog. So thank you for asking. All right. So if anybody has questions, I will hang around. Barb, if you could just hang back for a sec, would be great. I'm going to pause the recording. Please do book some time with me. Please check out the Cash Control Bootcamp, and I will see you guys tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. Excellent
Thank you.
session.
You are welcome.